Have you ever found yourself staring into the silence between you and your twin flame, wondering how something so profound could feel so distant? It's not just the absence of words that hurts, it's the emotional void, the aching stillness where connection used to live. You're left questioning, why don't they reach out? Why does someone who feels so deeply connected suddenly disappear? If you felt the heartache of being left in the quiet, not knowing what went wrong, you're not alone, and this message is meant for you. In today's video, we're going to unravel the mystery behind the twin flame runner dynamic. We'll dive deep into the emotional and spiritual reasons behind their silence, their fears, and the internal battles that often lead them to run. You'll understand the mirror effect that takes place within twin flame connections and why separation is not abandonment, but a sacred phase of soul growth. Whether you're the runner or the chaser, this journey offers you profound clarity and compassion. By the end of this video, you'll no longer be left in the dark. You'll begin to see the silence not as rejection, but as transformation in motion. You'll gain powerful insights into the runner's perspective, how their actions are rooted not in a lack of love, but in overwhelming intensity, fear, and unhealed wounds. And most importantly, you'll be guided toward healing your own heart, reclaiming your inner power, and finding peace within yourself, whether or not physical union occurs. If this speaks to your soul, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It helps this message reach others who need it, and allows us to continue walking this sacred path of awakening together. Let's begin the journey into the heart of the silence, where answers, healing, and truth await. Number 1. The fear of intimacy and vulnerability in the twin flame journey. At the heart of the twin flame runner's actions lies a deep, often unspoken fear, one that goes far beyond commitment or emotional attachment. It is the fear of intimacy in its rawest, most sacred form. Unlike ordinary relationships, the twin flame connection acts as a soul mirror, one that reflects every hidden corner of a person's being. It doesn't just show the surface, it illuminates the shadows within, the old wounds, buried insecurities, and unhealed trauma that have long been kept hidden, even from oneself. Imagine standing in front of a mirror so crystal clear that it reveals not just your reflection, but your soul's truth. Every scar, every past hurt, every suppressed emotion rises to the surface. For the runner, this is an experience that can feel overwhelming, even terrifying. In the presence of their twin flame, all masks fall away. The layers of protection they've worn for years, pride, avoidance, emotional detachment, begin to dissolve. And suddenly, they are exposed, vulnerable, seen. This vulnerability is not a comfort, it is a threat. The fear that their twin will see them in this raw state and turn away becomes almost unbearable. And so they run, not out of hatred, not due to a lack of feeling, but because the love is so powerful, so penetrating, that it shakes the very foundation of their emotional defenses. They fear rejection, not because they doubt their twin's love, but because they doubt their own worth. Often, this fear is rooted in childhood or past life trauma, experiences of abandonment, betrayal, or deep emotional pain that have scarred their sense of self. The twin flame connection forces them to confront everything they've spent a lifetime avoiding, and that's what makes this journey so profound. Ironically, it isn't the absence of love that causes them to flee. It's the presence of a love so real, so undeniable, that they fear they can't live up to it. The truth is, true intimacy begins within. It begins when the runner is finally able to sit with their wounds instead of hiding from them, when they choose healing over avoidance and courage over fear. Only by embracing their own vulnerability can they begin to understand what unconditional love truly means. And only then can they stop running, turn back toward their twin, and open their heart fully, not just to love, but to being loved exactly as they are. This is the sacred threshold that every runner must face. The moment where fear gives way to healing, where flight becomes return, where love becomes liberation. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect on how the fear of intimacy may have played a role in your own twin flame journey, or perhaps in a connection that touched your soul deeply. Can you recognize moments when vulnerability felt too overwhelming, either for you or for the other person? This fear is more common than we realize, and acknowledging it is the first step toward healing. I invite you to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. You never know who your words might resonate with. Or if you'd like to make an affirmation, simply type, "I choose love over fear." Let's continue this journey together with open hearts and deeper awareness. Number 2, emotional unavailability as a form of self-protection. Emotional unavailability is often misunderstood, especially in the context of a twin flame connection. To the outside observer, the runner's behavior may appear cold or indifferent, almost as if they simply don't care. But beneath that silence lies something far more complex and human, a deeply ingrained act of self-preservation. Their emotional distance is not a lack of love, it's a learned defense, one carefully constructed over time in response to betrayal, abandonment, and emotional wounds that have yet to fully heal. Imagine their heart as a heavily fortified castle, one built not out of stone, but out of painful experiences. Each brick represents a broken trust, a time they were left to deal with emotions alone, or a moment when their vulnerability was met with rejection. These walls weren't created to shut people out maliciously. They were built for survival, to protect the most fragile, tender parts of themselves from being shattered again. But then, the twin flame connection arrives. Suddenly, without warning, this spiritual bond begins to tremble. The foundation of that fortress, feelings they've buried for years, begin to resurface. For someone who has trained themselves to stay emotionally guarded, this awakening feels like a loss of control, like standing in the eye of a storm with no shelter. The depth of the connection brings up emotional triggers they believed they had long since mastered. Old wounds reopen, memories resurface, and the fear of being seen, truly seen, becomes overwhelming. This emotional withdrawal is not a reflection of the chaser or a measure of how much they care. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Their silence reveals just how unprepared they feel to handle the raw intensity of what they are experiencing. The runner's heart aches to connect, but their mind retreats into familiar patterns of isolation. There is often a subconscious belief that they are not enough, that they will somehow ruin this sacred bond or let their counterpart down. The battle within them is not personal, it's internal. It's not about you. It's about their ability to show up for themselves. And until they're ready to confront their own pain and do the inner healing, they may continue to keep those walls intact. But don't mistake this pause as the final chapter. Their silence is not forever. Beneath the fear and resistance, there is still a deep longing for connection, for healing, for love. One day, when they've done the inner work and learned to trust their own heart, the walls will begin to fall. And when that happens, love, real, divine, unconditional love, will flow in, no longer blocked by the fear that once controlled them. Number 3, the fear of change and transformation. The twin flame connection is not merely emotional, it is alchemical. It doesn't just stir feelings, it shakes the very foundation of identity. For the runner, this connection becomes a mirror so intense, it forces them to confront a version of themselves they've never truly met. Suddenly, the life they've carefully constructed, the persona shaped by years of habits, cultural conditioning, and societal expectations, begins to crack. The path forward requires not just change, but transformation, and that feels terrifying. To the runner, embracing this journey is like standing at the edge of a cliff, being asked to leap into something completely unknown. Everything they've clung to, roles, routines, titles, beliefs, now feels like an ill-fitting costume. And while that old identity may have been limiting, it was familiar. Letting go of it feels like losing their sense of self, their stability, and their control. The unknown stretches before them like a vast ocean, and fear whispers, "What if you're not ready? What if you fall? What if you lose everything you've built?" This fear is not irrational, it's deeply human. Change asks for surrender, and surrender requires trust. The runner doesn't just fear the unknown, they fear what they might become within it. They fear being unrecognizable to themselves. They fear the pressure of growth, of stepping into a higher version of themselves that demands accountability, authenticity, and emotional transparency. And above all, they fear that they may fail to live up to the sacredness of this connection. But the twin flame journey, by its very nature, dismantles the illusion of control. It beckons both souls to surrender, not to each other, but to a divine unfolding. It whispers that losing the old self is not death, but rebirth. For the runner, this surrender feels like the end of everything. Yet paradoxically, it is the beginning of everything. It is only through releasing who they were that they can become who they are meant to be. Transformation is not instant. It is a sacred unraveling. And until the runner finds the courage to leap, they remain caught in the liminal space between comfort and destiny, between the past they've outgrown and the future that quietly awaits their arrival. But deep within, the soul knows. The leap is not a fall, but a flight. And the moment they trust it, everything begins to change. To better understand the runner's experience, imagine a butterfly still inside its cocoon. From the outside, we see potential. We know it's meant to fly. But from the inside, the caterpillar only feels the pain of being pulled apart. Its old form is dissolving, and it has no idea what it will become. That in-between stage feels like death, not transformation. Similarly, the runner senses that the twin flame connection is calling them to evolve, to shed limiting beliefs, break old patterns, and step into a new, unfamiliar version of themselves. But when you're still inside the cocoon, it's hard to believe that wings are forming. All you feel is the loss of who you used to be. This is why many runners resist the process, not because they don't care, but because the very act of becoming requires them to die to their old self first. Transformation always feels like destruction before it feels like rebirth. And until they can see their own wings, they may choose the safety of the cocoon, even if it means never truly soaring. Number 4, the unreadiness of the soul. There are moments in the twin flame journey when the separation feels unbearable, when the silence echoes louder than words, and the absence of your twin stings like abandonment. But often, this painful distance is not about rejection, it's about readiness. Sometimes the runner simply isn't prepared, not because they don't feel the depth of the connection, but because they aren't yet equipped to hold it. The twin flame bond is not like an ordinary relationship. It demands a level of emotional maturity and spiritual depth that few are ready for without deep inner work. It asks both souls to peel back layers of conditioning, confront unresolved trauma, and stand naked before their own shadows. For the runner, who may still be navigating unhealed wounds, fears of abandonment, limiting beliefs, or burdens from past relationships and current obligations, this kind of raw exposure can feel overwhelming. They may still be tethered to patterns, people, or circumstances that keep them from stepping fully into the truth of the connection. This is where many misunderstand the purpose of separation. It is not a punishment. It is not the universe withholding love. It is, in truth, a sacred space carved out for transformation. It is the breath between heartbeats, the quiet where healing begins. In this space, even when they appear distant, the runner is subconsciously being called to confront the very fears that caused them to flee, and the chaser too is given the opportunity to surrender, to release attachment, and to redirect energy toward their own soul's growth. The twin flame journey is not about chasing someone into wholeness, it's about becoming whole within yourself. Reunion, as beautiful as it is not the goal. It is the result of two people who have individually awakened and evolved. Readiness cannot be rushed or demanded. It arrives softly, quietly, through divine timing, when both souls have truly prepared their inner landscapes to hold the vast love that awaits them. So if you find yourself in waiting, know this: your growth is not in vain, and neither is theirs. The soul unfolds at its own sacred pace, and when the time is right, the universe will bring you back to each other, not as two halves, but as two complete flames, finally ready to burn together. If you've made it this far, it means something in your soul resonates with this message. Take a moment to reflect. Where are you in your own journey of readiness? Are you the runner, the chaser, or simply a soul in the midst of becoming whole? Your story matters, and you're not alone in this sacred process. I invite you to share your experience in the comments, whether it's a moment of realization, a lesson learned in separation, or a truth you've discovered about yourself. Or if you'd simply like to affirm your growth, type this in the comments: I trust divine timing and honor the sacred pace of my soul. Let's hold space for each other in this unfolding journey. Number 5. Trusting the journey, the role of divine timing. What if the runner isn't running away from you, but running toward their healing? This shift in understanding changes everything. When they create distance, it's not a personal rejection. It's part of a soul-deep preparation. Every step they take away from the connection is a necessary part of their inner transformation. Without this space, neither of you would be able to evolve into the fullest expression of your true self. The twin flame journey is not something you can control, force, or speed up. It is divinely orchestrated, timed not by your desires, but by the wisdom of the universe. Reunion does not come because we long for it desperately. It comes when both souls are fully aligned, whole, and ready to meet again on a higher level. This is where the true challenge lies, not in finding your twin, but in trusting the process that unfolds between you. This path is sacred because it teaches us the deepest spiritual virtues: patience, surrender, and unconditional love. But above all, it reminds us that love starts within. Whether you're in connection or separation, every moment is designed by a force greater than us. You are not being punished by the distance. You are being guided to expand, to shed old layers, to become the person your soul came here to be. So instead of waiting, use this time wisely. Focus on your own healing, your dreams, and your growth. Build a life that feels whole and fulfilling without relying on someone else to complete it. Because true union doesn't happen between two halves trying to mend each other. It happens when two whole beings come together, not to fix, but to uplift, support, and amplify one another. Trust that divine timing is not working against you. It is working for you. And when the time is right, reunion won't feel like a chase or a struggle. It will feel like coming home. The runner's actions are not a reflection of your worth. They are echoes of their own unhealed wounds. Their silence is not rejection, but a protective shell built to contain emotions too powerful to face all at once. And though it may feel like they are retreating from love, what they are truly avoiding is the transformation that love demands. For the chaser, this can be heartbreaking, but it is also a sacred initiation, a calling to step deeper into your own power. This journey is not about chasing someone who has turned away. It is about chasing no one, and instead, choosing to become the version of yourself who no longer needs to run or cling. It's about reclaiming your wholeness, owning your light, and walking the path of inner union. The more you rise in your own truth, the more you magnetize the right energy, not through effort, but through embodiment. So if you're standing in the space between longing and becoming, know this: you are not lost, you are being reshaped. Every silence, every pause, every unanswered question is a step toward divine alignment. Your healing is not in vain. The universe is not blind to your tears or your faith. Everything you're experiencing is preparing you for a love that mirrors your evolution. A love that doesn't arrive to fix you, but to reflect the sacred wholeness you've cultivated within. If this message touched your heart, I invite you to leave a comment below and share your reflection. What part of your twin flame journey has stretched your spirit the most? What strength has emerged from your waiting, your healing, your surrender? Let's hold space for one another in the comments, or simply affirm with the words, I trust the journey. If this video resonated, please like it, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and subscribe to our channel for more soul-centered insights. Your engagement is what helps this message reach those who are silently struggling with the same questions. Your presence here matters. Your journey is powerful. And remember, Healing isn't linear. Growth isn't instant. But every time you choose love over fear, faith over doubt, and growth over comfort, you are rising. You are becoming. You are aligning. Together, we rise.